Hello, my name is Jim. In today's video, I'm going to compare the Beyerdynamic M160 to some other more affordable microphones. The testing I'm going to do today will include drum overheads, drum room, and guitars. I've been recording drums at home for over 10 years, and I've been using the Beyerdynamic M160 for about 2 years. On my band's latest album, we use the M160 as a drum room mic, and we also used it for guitars. Recently, a friend of mine asked me to record drums on a song that he had, and he specifically asked for a hi-hat mic. And I had never recorded the hi-hat, as a separate mic before. So I decided to use the one M160 that I had for that purpose, and it sounded pretty good on the hi-hats, and that led me to purchase a second Beyerdynamic M160 so that I could use it as overheads. So the A/B testing I'm doing today, I was really doing for my own knowledge to compare to my existing overheads and to some other mics that we'll talk about. But I thought it would be a good topic for a video to share with others who might be considering the Beyerdynamic M160. The reason that I originally purchased a Beyerdynamic M160 was because it was these microphones that were used on Led Zeppelin's recording of When the Levee Breaks. John Bonham's drums were set up in the stairwell of the Headley Grange mansion, and I believe they had two of these mics above his drum set in the stairwell, and just these two mics sound really, really beautiful. The fact that these microphones could also be used for guitars is what convinced me to go ahead when I purchased the first one. So the first scenario that we're going to go through today is a comparison of the M160s as drum overheads compared to the AKG P220s. The AKG P220s are an affordable large diaphragm condenser mic, and I've been really happy with these as overheads. I've been using them for about 10 years, and I really like the way they sound. So regarding the placement, I already had my P220s set up as overheads from a separate project, and I just set up the M160s very close to the P220s and pointed in the same direction. So what you're going to hear now is I'm going to go through sort of a drum performance that touches on many different textures that would commonly be included in song recordings that I would do. And I'm just going to be going back and forth between the two pairs of overheads. You'll see that I've labeled them, and the color of the screen will change a little bit to cue you that the microphones have changed. In this first run through, I have the kick drum mic on. It's a Sure Beta 52A. So basically, it's just the overheads and the kick drum mic that you'll be listening to. One thing that's important is for the best listening experience, you should be listening with high quality headphones. One more thing that I forgot to mention is that whenever you hear the Beyerdynamic M160s or the mics that I'm comparing it to, like in this case the overheads, there are no effects whatsoever on either of those microphones. In this next segment, I do have some compression and EQ on the kick drum, but we'll do some follow-up post-analysis and you'll hear exactly what's only in the overheads. And for the entire video, there's no other effects unless noted. There is a part where I put some heavy compression on the room mic, and you'll probably enjoy that. hope you enjoyed that little performance there. After listening back to it, my overall assessment is that the M160s are a bit darker sounding, and they sound more like a record right out of the gate than the P220s. I made an effort to level match the pairs of overhead mics, and what I'm hearing is that the cymbals are a little bit less harsh in the M160s, and the ride cymbal is definitely quite a bit quieter. On the toms, the stick attack that you hear on the P220s seems to be rounded off and better balanced into the overall tom sound with the M160s. So now I'm going to play just a few select segments again, you know, the same different textures, but a shorter segment with the overheads only. And let me know if you're hearing the same thing that I'm hearing in the comments. The next segment that I'm going to play will be a much earlier recording than I did of my jazzette set. And in this case, I've got the P220 again and the Beyerdynamic M160, both set up as a mono overhead, pointed in the same direction. Again, I don't have a photo of that. And another thing I'll mention through the whole video, same preamps, so there aren't any differences in preamps. They're all going through the Focusrite preamps everywhere. So this is when I was A/B testing the M160 when I first bought it. And it's just a mono overhead. Again, no effects whatsoever. Okay, this next segment is going to compare the Beyerdynamic M160 to the AKG P420 as room mics. So it's going to be a one mic only mono room mic comparison. The AKG P420 is in the same family as the P220. It's a large diaphragm condenser. The difference is it has two capsules in it and has multiple pickup patterns to choose from. You can see here in these pictures how I placed it. Basically, when I use when I've been using the M160 as a room mic, I'm back far, like 20 feet back in the room, and I'm pointed kind of at the snare drum and the tom part of the drum set. And you can see that I have the P420 in roughly the same position. This comparison is in Omni mode with the P420 because that's how I had been using it. And I'd done a lot of earlier testing when I first got the P420 with the intention of using it as a room mic, and I kind of settled on that Omni mode pattern because it had fewer cymbals in it. That's why I had kind of settled on that. So I'm going to play the segment. Basically, I have a playing segment. You'll recognize the beat, I think. So I'm going to go back and forth between the two mono room mics only. And then I'm going to play the same segment, but I'm going to have heavy compression on the mics. And the compressor, I'm using the Abbey Road RS124 compressor with the same exact settings on both mics. And you'll hear, what that compressor really adds to the situation. I think it does really good things for the room mic. So then we'll talk about it on the other end of it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure that you recognized the beat I was playing there. And, I think the compression adds a huge amount to what's going on with the room mic. In this case, interestingly, but not surprisingly to me, the Beyerdynamic M160 sounds a bit brighter than the P420. And I have to go back to my earlier experiments, but I am quite sure, I'm like 80% sure, that the reason that the large diaphragm condenser in this case doesn't sound brighter is because I've got it in that Omni pattern, and it's picking up the sounds coming from all directions in the room. So the cymbals are hitting the walls and decaying, in addition to just the effect that you get where the cymbals decay more than the low end with distance. Interestingly also is that I think the Beyerdynamic M160 again sounds more like a record. Like I feel like I could just take that M160 room only and use it, you know, just like they did on When the Levee Breaks. The brightness in this case, you know, it makes it a complete microphone. So I'm very happy with that comparison. So in this final segment, we're going to do a guitar amp miking comparison. We're going to compare the Beyerdynamic M160 to the good old Shure SM57. And the way that we've mic'd the amp in this case is something I learned from a Rick Beato video. I guess they do this in Nashville commonly. So you have the SM57 and a ribbon mic. I think he might have used a Royer mic in his example, but I'm not sure. Basically, you have the mics very close to one another. The 57 is more towards the center of the speaker. They're both between sort of the speaker cone and the surround. The 57 is more inward, where it would be brighter. And the M160 in this case is more towards the outside, more towards the, you know, the outer perimeter of the speaker. But the mics are pretty closely touching. This photograph that I'm showing is not from the exact session that we did the particular recording I'm using, but I can tell you that we set this up the same way every time when we were recording this particular guitar amp, which is the actual amp. Okay, so again, after listening to it, you can hear that the Beyerdynamic M160 is darker and that the SM57 is definitely brighter. Now, I'm not sure how much of that darkness to brightness ratio is due to the placement of the microphones or due to the microphone itself. But mainly I wanted to show that you can use the Beyerdynamic M160 as a guitar mic. And the nice thing about doing it in this orientation is you get the two different sounds. You get the bright sound, the dark sound, and you can use those two different sounds when you're mixing as sort of an sort of like a global EQ setting, depending on the ratio that you're mixing those two sounds together, or you could use one and not the other, etc. Okay, so I hope this video was useful to you if you're considering the Beyerdynamic M160. I hope this helps you out in your decision process. This isn't sponsored. Look at my YouTube channel. I'm definitely not sponsored by anybody. This is just me recording at home and trying to learn about the sound of these different mics. And my overall assessment is I think I can use that Beyerdynamic M160 as my overheads now. And a nice thing, as you grow your mic collection, you can repurpose other mics that you have in different scenarios. So it's not like by adding this, it's not like I'm losing the P220s. I definitely have places where I can use those P220s to get more mics recording things. So I think I'm going to go out on just playing that performance I did earlier only with the M160. I'll have to see how long the video is. I don't want to make it too long and boring and then no one will watch it, etc. But thank you very much for watching again, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a great day wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for watching.